Today we go over how to calculate your post spacing for DIY iron and aluminum gate installation. Hey everyone, Jason from Iron Fence Shop. Installing your gates is a little different from installing your fence panels, so today I thought I'd go over some DIY basics on how to calculate your post spacing so that you can figure out the correct distance to set those posts before you install your gate and hardware. When we're done today, we'll be able to figure out our on-center post measurement, our between post measurement, and our outside to outside of post measurement. The big difference between setting posts for a gate and setting posts for a fence panel is while you can trim a fence panel, you can't trim a gate. So we want to make sure we get these calculations correct and set your post correct the first time. Now before we get started, there's going to be 3 key points of information we need to know in order to calculate these measurements. 1, the width of your gate leaf. 2, your hinge and latch combination measurements. And 3, the size of your posts. Now if you aren't sure where to find those 3 pieces of information, a good place to start is your order confirmation that we emailed you when you placed your order. If you ordered our Infinity aluminum line, you'll be looking for this line item that has gate end post in the description. You can see the 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch post size description on this example here. So our post size is 2.5 inches. We can also see the 5x5 gate noted on here as well. We always give the height first and the width second, so our gate width here is 5 feet. Lastly, under the gate here, we can see that we have a 5.5 inch J-bolt hinge and a gravity latch for our hardware. Now if you ordered our Stronghold iron line, you will find your post size in a similar spot on the confirmation. Unless you have a driveway gate with a larger 4x4 or 6x6 post, iron post sizes are typically all the same and not differentiated like the aluminum. In instances like this example here, where we have both a 2.5 inch and a 2 inch size, the gate post is typically going to be the larger size post on your order confirmation. If you aren't 100% sure, be sure to ask your Iron Fence Shop sales rep. So now we know our gate width, we know our post width, and we know what type of hinge and latch hardware we have. So the last thing we need to figure out is what that hinge and latch combine to for a measurement to use in our calculation. Now there's a lot of different types of hinges and latches that can be used, so you'll want to make sure to refer to your installation guide to see what that measurement should be. Some of those might have multiple settings, and if so, go with the middle setting on it. That way you leave yourself some adjustability. So in our examples here that we had before, we had a 5.5 inch J-bolt hinge, and we had a gravity latch. And if you look at your installation guide, that recommends a measurement of about 4 inches combined. 3 inch for the hinge, 1 inch for the latch, 4 inches total. So now that we have all 3 of our numbers, let's go to the whiteboard and take a look how this stuff all gets put together to figure out our post spacing. Okay, so what I've crudely drawn here is our gate setup. Basically, we've got our 4 foot wide gate or 48 inch wide gate, our 2.5 inch posts on each side, our 3 inch J-bolt hinge, and our 1 inch gravity latch for that combined 4 inches of gate hardware. Now with that information, we're going to be able to come up with 3 different types of measurements that will help with your post spacing. Your on-center post spacing, your between post spacing, and your outside to outside of post spacing. Let's go ahead and start with your on-center post spacing. This is going to be the one most people begin with because it gives you the ideal spot to start digging those post holes. So what the on-center is going to do is give you the measurement that gets you from the middle of this post to the middle of that post. And that's typically where you're going to drop your tool to start digging your post hole. Okay, so let's take our information now and come up with our on-center post spacing. So the first piece of information we need is what's the size of our gate. So in our case here, 4 feet or 48 inches. Now the next thing we'll need to know is our hinge and latch hardware. So in this case, 3 inches for the J-bolt hinge, 1 inch for the gravity latch, 4 inches. So if we add that up, we're at 52 inches. Now the last piece we need to utilize is our posts. Now you can do this one of 2 different ways. You can either take the size of 1 post, or in this case 2.5 inches, or if you visualize it in your head as the middle of each post, you take 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 2.5 inches. Either way, it's the same number. So if we add our 2.5 inches here, 54.5 inches. So basically if you take your tape measure, string it out from 54.5 inches across, drop a dot there, that's the middle of your left post hole and the middle of your right post hole, and the perfect place to start digging your post hole. Okay, so we used our on-center post measurement and you've dug your post holes across at that distance. Now we need to figure out where we drop the posts in those post holes. So these next 2 measurements are going to come in handy for that. Let's go ahead and start with our between post measurement, basically the measurement from the inside of this post to the inside of this post. Now to get our between post measurement, we need 2 bits of information. The first is our gate size, so again, 48 inches here. And then we also need to account for our hinge and latch hardware. So 3 inches for our J-bolt hinge, 1 inch for our gravity latch, 4 inches. So if we put those two together, now we have 52 inches, meaning that basically if you set your posts 52 inches apart, that'll accommodate your gate and your hinge hardware and latch hardware perfectly. Okay, so now we know our on-center measurement, we know our between post measurement. There's one more you can use to make sure that you got everything set perfectly, and that's your outside to outside of post measurement. So for this one, we're gonna figure out exactly the distance from the outside of our post here to the outside of our post here. Now to get that, we're gonna take all three pieces of information. In this case, we're gonna start again with our gate leaf size at 48 inches. Then we're gonna take our gate hardware combined, so 3 inches for our J-bolt hinge, 1 inch for our gravity latch, or 4 inches combined. Now this time we want to account for both posts in their entirety. So we're going to take our 2.5 inch post and our 2.5 inch post, add them together for 5 inches. And what that gets us is 57 inches. So from the outside of your post to the outside of your post, gate hardware, everything combined should be 57 inches apart. And that's going to be your outside of post measurement. Okay, so now that we've got all three of those measurements, now you know exactly where to start digging your post holes for your gate, as well as where to set the posts in those post holes for your gate. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're measuring along the way, make sure you measure down at the ground and at the top of the post. You don't want a measurement that's right on one end and wrong on the other, where you get this or this happening. I hope this video has helped show how to calculate your post spacing for your gates. Be sure to check us out at ironfenceshop.com. Not sure how deep to dig that post hole? Check out this video we did on how to calculate your post depth. Now, if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot us an email at sales@ironfenceshop.com or give us a call at 800-261-2729. We look forward to hearing from you.